Alright, so before we get into the video, I just want to show you guys something real quick. 96% of you guys are not subscribed, and that is
No bueno.
if you do see this video and you keep seeing me in your recommendations, like the featured or whatever, make sure you hit that subscribe button because it only takes 2 seconds and it does help motivate me to make more videos for you guys because I truly do like making videos. But let's get into the video. Before we get into the video, I know you see me wearing a Buccaneer shirt, and if you do understand why, you are definitely an OG part of this channel for sure. But today's video, you already see the title, you already see the thumbnail. We're talking about the AFC and the NFC North teams, and just to clarify before I get into this video, it's not going to be 100% of the transactions. It's going to be about 90, maybe 85% of the transaction because, a lot of teams signed like a lot of lower players or whatever like that nobody knows. And like a coaching transactions, like I said, the major moves, major trades, the cap situation, all of that. But yeah, let's get into it. And now we are starting with the NFC North. And now we already discussed the Packers, so I already made a whole separate video about that. If you're watching on your phone, you can see this little tab right here. Click on that real quick and then come back to this video. But the first team we're actually going to be talking about is the Detroit Lions. And now if you keep seeing me looking on the other side of the screen, I'm looking at my notes, so I'm not just looking somewhere else. But the Lions, their main addition was Carlton Davis, DJ Reader, Amik Robertson, and Kevin Zeitler. And I think that the Lions are in a really good position, and they definitely address a couple positions on the defensive side, like the defensive line and the cornerbacks, the ones that they really needed throughout the season. And they completely addressed that in the free agency period as of right now. But their main losses were Jonah Jackson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and Josh Reynolds. They lost. They went to another teams during free agency. Oh, and I will say that the pending free agents, like the current free agents out there right now, I'm not going to be including in this video. Even though they're considered a loss, they're still technically available. So I won't mention like the free agents, like the current free agents. But like I just said, the Lions I thought had a pretty good offseason. They addressed a couple of needs that they needed. They're about $26 million under the cap, and they're in a really good situation for the next few years. I think their team's really young. They're gonna be very, very good this season. I give them offseason grade a B because they only needed a couple other things down. They did lose a couple of good offensive linemen, but they kind of addressed the secondary more, and they might drop the offensive line in the draft. So I give the Lions a B here. The Minnesota Vikings are the next team we're gonna be talking about. This team definitely had a lot of transactions during the offseason, but the main additions they had is Jonathan Grenard or Grenard. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, Sam Darnold, of course, Aaron Jones, and Shaquille Griffin. Their main losses is Kirk Cousins, Danielle Hunter, DJ Woonem, I don't know how to say his name either, Jordan Hicks, Marcus Davenport, Dean Lowerly, KJ Osborne, Alex Madison, Josh Dobbs, and Greg Joseph. Now, those were a lot of players they lost, And I think that the Vikings are going to be in another weird situation still. We still don't know exactly what's going on with Justin Jefferson, if he's going to be traded or not. I think he won't be traded. If anything, the Vikings, if they're like 0-6, 0-7, and they're like really stinking it up, they might trade him. But, they're about 17 under the cap, and they lost a couple of players on defense, but they improved their linebacker position, which is probably their main weakness of last year. Even though they lost Hunter, I think they actually improved on the linebackers. But, offensive lines is still the same. They improved the running game by adding Aaron Jones. I think they had an okay offseason. I give them a C+ here. And now the Chicago Bears, also another team that had a really good offseason so far. They changed offensive coordinators. They went from Luke Getsy to Shane Waldron, and they had a couple of minor other moves in coaching, but it's like quarterback coach or whatever like that. But of course, their main additions are Keenan Allen, Ryan Bales, Kevin Byard, Gerald Everett, Jonathan Owens, and Coleman Shelton. Their main losses this year are Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, Justin Jones, Nathan Peterman, and Dante Foreman. And now this Bears team is in a really good position. They had a lot of money to spend this offseason. As of right now, they're about $23 million under the cap. They completely revamped their run game by adding DeAndre Swift. Oh, I forgot to add him in the main additions, by the way. But the new OC should really help them. I mean, you can't get much worse than Luke Getsy was. I mean, he was a really wacky offensive coordinator, at least in my Packer opinion. But the Bears definitely, like I said, had a really good offseason so far. And I definitely give them a B+. If they can really target this draft by, of course, adding Caleb Williams and maybe getting another offensive lineman or maybe adding another weapon, like, the wide receiver position, this team is going to be in really good position for the next couple of years. The Baltimore Ravens are the next team we're going to be talking about. We're going to the AFC North. And as of the coaches-wise, they lost a defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, and they actually ended up promoting Zach Gore, which is a linebacker coach. So I think that, their defense might be a little bit different next year, but it shouldn't be that much of a difference, major difference per se. And now one of the main acquisitions was signing Derrick Henry to the 2-year deal. This was an absolute massive move for them. They had a couple running backs they lost already in free agency, but Derrick Henry is a huge signing. And their other additions were Josh Jones and Kadar Holman. And like I said, they lost technically a lot of players this year. They lost Morgan Moses. They had him in a trade with the Jets. Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, Geno Stone, Ronald Darby, Gus Edwards, John Simpson, Kevin Zeitler, and Tyler Huntley. And now their running back position, like I said, they got Derrick Henry, but their second running back, I can't even name their second running back. So they might address that in the they should address it in the draft. But, the Ravens, they weren't that bad of a team last year. Now, they lost a couple of defensive players, which is huge, like Patrick Queen. They really need to target that in the draft, and there's not really a lot of good free agent linebackers right now. I give them a C. That doesn't mean that their team overall is a C, but I give their offseason grade a C. They do need improvement on the defense, like I just said, but, their team's still really good. So, offseason grade, by the way, not team overall grade, a C. The Cincinnati Bengals is the next team we are talking about. Coaching-wise, they lost Brian Callahan, their offensive coordinator. They actually ended up promoting Dan Pitcher, was the quarterback coach. He's now the offensive coordinator. Their main addition is Sheldon Rankings, Geno Stone, Zach Moss, Trenton Brown, Mike Gesicki, and Von Bell. And now, the Vikings, not the Vikings, oh my goodness. The Bengals are also in another position where their team is a really good team. They just had Joe Burrow out for most of the year, and they added, Mike Gesicki, I don't know how to say his name either. It's another weird name, but tight end. He's their automatic number 1 tight end, and they didn't really have that many holes. They really needed defensive players, and they kind of addressed it by adding Sheldon Rankings and Geno Stone and all that. But their team was pretty good in the situation already as it was. Now their main losses, of course, Joe Mixon, Chidobe Awuzie, Jonah Williams, DJ Reader, and Irv Smith. I think that they did downgrade the position just a little bit by running back position. Joe Mixon was a really good running back, and Zach Moss is a good running back, but I still think it's a small downgrade. They're about $24 million under the cap, and the team kind of basically addressed every position that they lost during the free agency. They added the cornerback. They lost DJ Reader they lost DJ Reader, then they added Sheldon Rankings, so they kind of flip-flop positions, but I think they downgraded just a little bit at running back. And we still don't know what's going on with T. Higgins either. Just like Justin Jefferson, we don't know exactly if he's going to get traded or not. It could be during the draft. Who knows? I give their offseason grade a B. And now, of course, it could have been better if they kept DJ Reader, maybe. I don't know. Or if they kept Joe Mixon. But, it was weird with Joe Mixon already. So the Bengals get a B. The Pittsburgh Steelers are by far one of the top 5 teams of, that had the best offseason so far. Their offensive coordinator went from Matt Canada to Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was the coach for the Falcons. And I think this is just a complete massive upgrade because apparently a lot of people from the Steelers the fans didn't like Matt Canada and his play calling. So that should be a massive upgrade as it is already. And of course, their main additions is Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Dante Jackson, Patrick Queen, Cordell Patterson, Deshaun Elliott, Dean Lowry, and Van Jefferson. This team added a complete whole different quarterback room, and it is way different. It's so much better than last year. And now their main losses were, of course, Kenny Pickett, Deontay Johnson, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, and Chukwuma Okafor, the offensive lineman. And like I said, this quarterback room is completely revamped. Literally, everyone's brand new, and I think it's a massive upgrade from last year, like I just said. They added the defensive player, Patrick Queen, their middle linebacker. He's going to be really good for them. It's funny because, he was on the Ravens, now he's on the Steelers. I definitely give the Pittsburgh Steelers an A+. Like I said, their team wasn't bad last year. It was just their quarterback play was completely horrific. And if TJ Watt can stay healthy, this team is definitely going places as long as Russell Wilson ends up at least playing above average. So the Steelers an A+. And the last AFC North we're going to be talking about, the NFC or AFC North team, is the Browns. With the coaching changes, their offensive coordinator went from Alex Van Pelt to Ken Dorsey. And of course, their main addition was adding Jerry Jeudy from the trade with the Broncos. They got Jordan Hicks, Quinton Jefferson, Jameis Winston, Devin Bush, Naheem Hines, Tyler Huntley and Dante Foreman. Their main losses were Jordan Elliott, Joe Flacco, Harrison Bryant, and Sion Taiyaki. And the Browns also have had a really good offseason, at least in my opinion. They're about $4 million under the cap. And, if this team can actually stay healthy, they really do have a lot of potential. And they definitely had to upgrade at wide receiver with Amari Cooper and now Jerry Jeudy. And now Jerry Judy's a 50-50 wide receiver as it is, but now he's a number 2 wide receiver. He was sort of kind of the number 2 over in Denver, but I think he's going to get only better now. And Deshaun Watson is just a whole nother story as it is with him. I do give the Browns a B+ here. They did have a lot of lower end signings, like all those players that their main addition, that was like basically half of their new acquisitions. And I think that the Browns are also a really good team, but if they can stay healthy, if Nick Chubb can actually stay healthy for once, this team's going to be dominant. And if honestly, this division right here, the AFC North, is definitely the best in the NFL, and it's going to be crazy next year. But that wraps up this video. If you do like it, hit that like button, comment down below your biggest reaction of this video, with AFC and NFC North teams. I do want to see your guys' opinion, but I'm out of here. Deuces.